What's up, man? It's Lost in Seattle. And because we're in Black History Month, I decided that I was going to do a black a history, or at least some of the history of how black people in America got here. Now, obviously, we got people that the main narrative being pushed on black people is that we all came from Africa. We're all descendants of slaves and all this stuff. All came off of slave ships. Then there's the people that push that we are the Native Americans. We are indigenous. Slavery never happened. At least we didn't get off boats. Slavery off boats didn't happen. And that we were already here. And it's all a lie. Then, of course, you have the people that believe we are direct descendants of the Moors of Europe. And it always confuses me why these three people, these three segment of our people can't just come to the conclusion that we're all of them. All three of those groups you name are the black people of America. Black people in America are direct descendants of West Coast Africans that came here through slavery, the natives that are already here, and the niggers from Europe, pretty much. But I want to start off with the American or the slavery side of it, since that's the one that's most perpetuated on us. It's an easy narrative. It's some of it's fake. They lie about the number, at least, that came here through slavery. But I want to go through a couple of real stories of black people who came from slavery. Now, it all starts with Africa, obviously, and particularly Benin, or the Kingdom of Dahomey. Now, the Kingdom of Dahomey doesn't exist anymore. Obviously, it's called Benin. They were the leaders in the slave trade. But we're going to listen to Henry Louis Gates interview a couple of people who are direct descendants of these slave traders.
A few months back, we had the bicentenary of the death of King Agonglo. And Agonglo was said to be one of the kings who tried to stop slave trade. But of course, he did not succeed.
But he must have known how bad it was.
Yes, he knew. They knew how bad it was. That was why they didn't trade their own people. They would trade people from the wars and battles they did all around the country.
Now, he just said that they didn't sell their own. Now, the Kingdom of Dahomey, you had Benin, Togo, you had the Mali Empire, you had a couple of kingdoms. So they're saying we didn't sell our own. Now, if you look up the map of where this place is, back in those days on their map, they had a place called the Kingdom of Judah, or I forgot how to say the word, but pretty much Wayuda or something like that. Now, if you ask people from West Africa if this ever exists, they'll deny it ever existed. There was no such thing as the Kingdom of Judah. But obviously, brothers that are into the knowledge, you would know that this was a real place. And the people they sold were not their people. They're being honest. They were people that came there from another place and built the land up and started the kingdom. But that's besides the point. Now we're going to move forward a little bit. Let me jump up. I just want to get a couple of clips out of this. Let's go right here.
I doubt that Don Francisco was motivated by saving people from sacrifice, but it's obviously a comforting family legend. Don Francisco's bedroom has been kept as a shrine. You mean he lived here?
Yeah, he lived here. He was even buried in his bedroom.
In his bedroom?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd like that. I mean, this is it?
Yeah, this is the grave.
When he died, they buried him here?
Yes, they buried him here.
So he was the king of slavery?
Yeah, he was. I cannot say the king of the slavery, but the king of, Ouida.
The king of Ouida.
Yeah. But he was very important in the slave trade.
Ouida is the name. Yeah, Ouida. But if you look at it in translation, it says Judah, the Kingdom of Judah.
I am not proud of him because, the slave trade was terrible. And that sent out from Africa a lot of descendants, So it's evil business. I didn't like it at all. I wish I was descendants from slaves. That will make me feel better.
She said, I wish I was descendant of slave. It'll make me feel better. That's so goofy. You could tell she used to telling these lies and niggas he tell the truth to.
Yeah. And I always feel guilty when I meet, African Americans. And, because my position is delicate, I am part of the history, and at the same time, I will be telling the history. It makes me all the time feel bad.
Yeah. And many African Americans
would rather have been
Yes.
kept here rather than taken.
So yeah, you get the point. So she admitted that this kingdom of Dahomey or Yuda or Judah, they sold these people part of this kingdom. This is Francisco Felix de Souza. He was a Afro-Brazilian dude, as they said. His father was I forgot it. He was like a man of. He was a man of power. His mother was a slave. Talking about Francisco de Souza. But even to this day, this family still has lineage that's in power. I mean, this here is his granddaughter. This right here is his granddaughter, and this is her husband, who is the ex-king of Benin. They still have political power there and stuff like that. But we're moving on through this now. All right. So now we got who these people were. Now we're gonna move on to how this has anything to do with African Americans.
This was part of a bigger conference.
Yeah, that's right, Byron. Tonight, Dr. James Delgado shared what exactly it took to find the last known slave ship to reach the U.S., as well as what's to come in the future.
For more than 150 years, the Clotilda's burned, sunken remains lied among other abandoned ships in the Mobile River until this summer, when after years of failed searches, archaeologists found the ship submerged on the east side of 12 Mile Island.
We always knew there was a ship, but when it was found, there was no more imagination.
Dr. James Delgado led the team that found the last known slave ship to arrive in the U.S. illegally, bringing 109 captives from Africa in 1860. Tonight, Delgado talked about all of the science behind what it took to identify the Clotilda. Darren Patterson, a descendant of one of Africatown's first leaders, says opportunities like this to learn more about the Clotilda.
So, as you can see, this ship existed. This is a real slave ship that existed that has real people that was on it. It's not a fake one. But one of the people that came off the ship was Mr. Cudjo Lewis, who, as you can see right here, Mr. Cudjo Lewis. He is the founder of the town they named Africatown. This is the founder, a guy who came right off the ship. Funny enough, he was actually captured by the Amazonian women over there in Africa. That's how he was sold into slavery. I forgot the name what they call them. Basically, the women that's in that movie Black Panther. Yeah, he was actually one of the men that was captured by them and sold into slavery. So yeah, ain't that something crazy? And then he came on to America to found Africatown. This is another woman who was on that ship, the Clotilda. Her name is Rhodesia, I think, but she changed her name to Sally Smith. This is her husband here. She was the last living person to come off a slave ship. So she was the last, not the last slave, but she was the last person who was that came directly off of a ship. She was the last living person. But a funny one is Questlove. This one is kind of funny.
Could you please turn the page? You, Amir, are looking at your third great-grandfather. That is your original African ancestor, brother. That is Charlie Lewis.
Now, this is the other guy, one of the other members of the ship, one of the other slaves. His name is Charlie Lewis. Now, I don't know if Charlie Lewis, he's a direct descendant of the guy who founded Africatown. So I found it kind of crazy how Questlove, this guy who had this certain energy to him, he's a guy who came from a direct descendant of somebody who came off of a ship. So that's that's 2 stories of real people who came off a real ship from Africa. So those were actual descendant of people that were came over on ships for slavery. Those are real stories. All right, well, let's move on to the Native American angle, or truth, should I say. This here is General Chi. He is the defense minister in China, or was back in. He retired in 2003 or around 2003. He basically has the same office as this guy here, Lloyd Austin, does in America. He's Secretary of Defense. They're pretty much the same office pretty much. But his is obviously he's in China. But in order to know who the real Native Americans are, or at least the face that they should represent, we have to understand who the people they're saying are Native Americans are. So who are those people they're calling Native Americans? So General Chi had a comment at that time. This whole this entire speech he did back in 2003, allegedly, was about them taking over America and using it as a second China because they're overpopulated, But you see right here, he made a comment here. He said, everybody knows, according to views propagated by Western scholars, humanity as a whole originated from one single mother in Africa. Therefore, no races claim to racial superiority. However, according to research conducted by most Chinese scholars, the Chinese are different from other races on Earth. We did not originate in Africa. Instead, we originated independently in the land of China. The pigment man of Zirconian that we are all familiar with represents a phase of our ancestors' evolution. So keep in mind, the Communist Party in China are hardcore atheists. They don't believe in God at all. So they definitely believe in the evolution. But now we go right here. Look at this comment. This is by the Minister of Defense in China, right? He said, during our long history, our people have disseminated throughout the Americas and the regions along the Pacific Rim, and they became Indians in the Americas and East Asian ethnic groups in the South Pacific. So they're saying that all those people are Asians. Now, you go down even further. He says, hold on. Way far down. All right, here we go. He said, therefore, solving the issue of America is the key to solving all other issues. First, this makes it impossible for us to have many people migrate there and even establish another China under the same leadership of the CCP, the Communist China Party. America was originally discovered by the ancestors of the yellow race, but Columbus gave credit to the white race. We, the descendants of the Chinese nation, are entitled to the possession of the land. It is said that the residents of the yellow race have a very low social status in the United States. We need to liberate them. So this is the Minister of Defense in China back in 2003 saying that they need to liberate the Indians or Asians of America. So, all right, that's strike one. Now, if you look here, this right here is Russia. This is Alaska. This here is called the Bering Strait. This thing right here is how you get from Europe or Russia or China or Siberia or Mongolia over to Alaska, which is America. Obviously, you have to go through Canada. You can get to America. But point is, this is where these people come from. The people we call Native Americans right now, those are Asian people. Now, we got more evidence of this because it's starting to become a normal thing to say at this point. You see here, watch this right here. This is Russia Beyond. Even they're starting to acknowledge who these people really are.
That Native Americans come from Siberia. Since the 18th century, ethnographers and archaeologists have been arguing that there are strong cultural and ethnic similarities between Native Americans and the people of Siberia. So what are those similarities? Well, first of all, appearance and clothes. Apparently, Siberians and Native Americans even look alike. Distinctive cheekbones, an upright posture, and dusky skin. In the 19th century, famous explorer Fridtjof Nansen called Evenks, the indigenous people of eastern Siberia, the Indians of Siberia. Both Siberians and Native Americans dressed themselves in clothes made of deer skin, which makes sense, with deer the main breeding cattle. But what is striking is how similar the ornaments and types of embroidery used to decorate their clothing was. Next, religion and beliefs. Shamanism, belief in the afterlife, and the power of spirits are prevalent for both cultures. Even skin tambourines are used by both Siberian and Indian shamans. In both cultures, they worship the spirit of fire and believe in the world tree as the main pillar of existence.
And all that stuff just goes back to the scriptures. You hear world tree and all that stuff that goes back to the, Anyway. But as you can see, these people share a lot of culture. And I'm from North Carolina, and this is what we used to see every damn year. These Native Americans, quote unquote, running around with this, doing these marches like this to celebrate Native American Heritage Month. every year from elementary to high school, we celebrated this. And then at some point you look around and you go, these people look like Asians or Mexicans, because they're all Asian people or Mongoloids. But anyway, let's move on. Oop. Now let's go to this. Now, Donald Trump, as you know, back in 2017, the video came out, or came out, because it wasn't like it was hidden, of Donald Trump reacting to a Pacific tribe of Native Americans in Connecticut.
Hispanic neighborhood Puerto Ricans.
Despite all this wealth and power, the tribe is not without some powerful enemies who consider them not only nouveau riche, but nouveau Indian.
Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians.
There's Donald.
So when he says that, he's not talking about the Mongoloid Indians. He's talking about these Indians. You know, other than maybe these two and this guy here, these are like black people. So Trump was making the argument, these people not Indian. These are black people, because he's perpetuating the same bullshit that the Native Americans are those Mongoloids. You see this guy right here? He looks more Mongoloid, which probably means he has a little mixture in him. But anyway, yeah, most of these people, these are like this lady here and this like my damn aunt. But anyway, this is the tribe he was talking about. So all right, now let's go to this. You see here, it says America's second largest Indian tribe expels blacks. So the Cherokee Nation kicked black people out of the tribe for being able to call themselves black. But look at here. Some well-to-do Native Americans also owned slaves. In fact, the late Cherokee Nation principal chief, Wilma Mankiller, wrote in her autobiography that, quote, "The truth is that the practice of slavery will forever cast a shadow on the great Cherokee Nation," unquote. Indeed, that shadow continues today in the latest iteration over the debate over just who is to include as a member of the Cherokee Nation. So now they're trying to do an ethnic cleanse. They're like, look, we're separate. Now, instead of them saying you're a different tribe of Native American, they're just kicking them out for being able to call themselves Native American, or at least they are kicking them out for being a tribe. But they're trying to make it seem like these people aren't Native American. Those black people are natives, but the problem is the Mongoloids are being put as the face of it when it really is the opposite. You got another one here, a sister tribe. She's suing. Keep messing up. A sister right here. She's suing the Native American, suing for her claim to be Native American. You see here, she said, Johnny Mae Austin and her grandson, Demario Solomon Simmons, can tell you everything about their ancestry. They can go back as far as 1810, the year Solomon Simmons' great-great-great-grandfather, Cal Tom, was born. With undeniable pride, they recount the man's feats of bravery during the Civil War and his leadership with the Oklahoma Creek's population. Oklahoma Creek, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they just get awarded half of Oklahoma? I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure they just got awarded at half of Oklahoma right now. So half of Oklahoma belongs to that tribe. But in fact, they are so determined to let the world know exactly who Cal Tom was that are suing the Creek Nation to make sure his descendants aren't forgotten. Solomon Simmons and his grandmother are black, but they'll argue they're also Creek, and they're fighting to reclaim their identity. So there's two tribes that's trying to kick black people from out of the tribes. But when you go back, and this here is written record of Voyage of 1502 of Giovanni Dever, I can't say his last name, Giovanni, a letter to King Francis I. And this is, everybody knows about this who study this. He said they go completely naked. This is him describing what the natives look like. He said they go completely naked except around their loins. They wear skins of animal skins like martens with an arrow belt of grass around the body, to which they tie various tails of other animals which hang down to their knees. The rest of the body is bare, and so is the head. So some of them wear garlands of bird feathers. They are dark in color, not unlike the Ethiopians, with thick black hair, not very long, tied back behind the head like a small tail. As for the physique of these men, they are well proportioned, medium height, a little taller than we are. They are broad chest, strong arms and legs, and other parts of the body are well composed. There is nothing else except that they tend to have be rather broad in the face, but not all. But we saw many with an angular faces, which means some of them had wide, flat faces. Some of them had narrow faces. They have big black eyes, and attentive and open look. They're not very strong, but they have very sharp cunning and are agile and swift runners. So that's giving a description of them. So when you go here, now the tagline that's been thrown at the natives is that they are savage. if you the savages or redskins. But if you look at that symbol for redskins, go back and look at the Washington Redskins symbol before they got rid of it. It looks like a black dude. It's not red. It's more like a reddish brown. But anyway, the other name other than redskin they called them was savages. Now, if you see here, it says, let me go down here, a male savage. Now, that's what they saying is how the native look. Then we go here. It says a female savage. So this is who these people really look like. Even though I don't know about the nakedness, but as he described them, that's what they were always naked. So that's the real Native Americans of Americas, not just North America, but you got to include Central and South America as well. All right, now this part, I'm going to speak on the black people from Europe, or the niggers of Europe. This article is talking about a letter that was sent by Ben Franklin, and about during his time immigration and the fear of the swarthy Germans. Now, I found this article through a brother named Chronicles of Judah. Make sure I acknowledge where I found it from, or at least who told me about it. But I'm going to read it here. He said, "Why should the Palatine Boers be suffered to swarm into our settlements, and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours? Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens, who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs, or any then they can acquire our complexion?" So he's separating that these people look different from us complexion wise, which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionately very small. All Africa is black or tawny, Asia chiefly tawny, America exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. The Saxons only accepted, who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. I could wish their numbers were increased, and while we are, as I may call it, scouring our planet by claiming America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a broader light to the eyes of inhabitants of Mars or Venus, why should we, in sight of superior beings, darken its people? Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity, by excluding all blacks and tawnies, of increasing the lovely white and red? Them damn red people. But perhaps I am partial to the complexion of my country, for such kind of partiality is natural to mankind. Now, notice he called himself red. Now, they also like to call Native Americans red, but we know they didn't refer to him as red until later on. But anyway, swarthy, dark colored, especially of skin, 1580s, unexplained alteration of swarthy, 1570s. Now, this right here would be considered a swarthy complexion. Wesley Snipes, he would be considered swarthy. So now he said, if you look here, he said, right here, he said, Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swede are generally of what we call swarthy complexion, and the Germans too. So Europe was black. Europe looked like this for the most part. That's what he just admitted. Then he said, our tawny, tan colored, from an Anglo-French tanne, or like the brownish yellow of tanned leather. So a light skinned person, which would be like Will Smith, he would be considered tawny. So you have swarthy, tawny. All right, and the reason why I refer to them as the niggers of Europe is this right here. His name is Kenneth the Niger. He was the King of Scotland. This is another picture of him. This is the Duke. Let me go right here. Yeah, this is Albert, Duke of Prussia. Go back. This is his wife, Dorotha. She was the Duchess. Now, they say that this woman comes from this man and this woman.
Somebody told a lie one day.
Because, like, yeah, that's not happening. That ain't happening. This is a crest from that time. And if you notice, whenever you look up the crest of the Middle Ages, you'll notice that a lot of the people on these crests have headbands on. Who wear headbands? But let's move on. All right, now this is a thing I found on Twitter. This guy had this emblem. Had this picture as his avatar on Twitter. And I asked him who he was. He didn't know. So I looked him up myself. And they're saying that this is Hendrik Hitchcock. They saying that you read this article here. It says, let me read this. With a keen eye, surprising discoveries can be made in Jacob Verden's painting, the market in Dam Square, Amsterdam, amidst all the loading and unloading of goods. The Black Remnants of the Time, which opened the Rembrandt House Museum on 6 March, combined 17th century artworks and records from the city archives to reveal the irrefutable truth that the Netherlands have been multicultural for some 400 years, and Black people, at odds with the myth of monoculturalism, were both present and free in the 17th century. Now they go on in this article to say that Black community in Rembrandt time were mostly sailors, soldiers, and servants. That's not true. For one, the dude he painted, this is like a servant's clothes, like, and they go to earrings. So whenever you see these pictures of these people wearing earrings, you know who they really are. But this is I guess it's supposed to be a servant, or is this a sailor, or is this a soldier? Yeah, this seems like a man who has some level of esteem in his country. He's somebody important, but they like to lie about who these people were. They always paint you as a slave or as a part of a lower society. But then we go here. This is the Black Madonna. Pretty sure most people have heard of this. The U.S. Artist Theater Gates explores the concept of Black Madonna in the latest exhibition, which celebrates the images of a powerful Black woman. They made it about that immediately, huh? Now look at this. Most people coming face to face for the first time with the Dutch artist Martin van, I can't even say that last name, as a century-old painting of the Virgin and the Child. Dutch? You mean, was he a swarthy German? Because that's what a Dutch is, a German. And this doesn't even represent the real Mary and Jesus. This represents the Queen of Heaven, really. But anyway, now, while we're talking about the history of Europe and who really was in power, let's go into who white people really were in Europe. White people were known as the wild men of Europe, the hairy wild men. You see here, this is their real culture. The dog. This is their real culture right here. Let's move on. This right here is a wild man or a Caucasian in a crest. That's a Black man with the headband on, which means he's of royalty. Here, these are the wild men attacking the Black nobility. These are your archers, and these are your king and your queen. All right, this is real stuff right here. This is who he really is. You have people say how white men was hairy and walking on all fours. That's not fake. They like to hide who they really are throughout history, but this is who these people really were. But the point of this is, yes, there were niggers in Europe. There was niggers in Europe long before the song, So that's the 3 places Black people in America come from. I don't know why people don't accept that it's all true. It's not one or the other. But anyway, peace.